So the main dynamic at play here is second in the Drivers' Championship. But remember, there was a little bit of rivalry after Brazil as well between the Red Bull teammates when team orders wasn't followed by Verstappen. And the triangle there all end up starting at the front of the grid. You've got Verstappen beat Perez to pole on Saturday, but Checo was actually pretty quick through the weekend and actually threatened to take pole. He didn't. He starts second, and he's got his main rival just behind in third. And as they head into turn one, the first few corners, you can see there's a little bit of edge between the three of them. And that then leads to the big incident on the first lap, which was Sainz trying to pass Hamilton just behind. But let's watch as the lights go out. It's pretty even across the front three. Sainz gets a bad start, gets swamped by the two Mercedes, and Hamilton comes through. But into the first corner, you've got this first part. Perez on the inside of Verstappen. He has a nose in on the inside, but he just sends it towards the inside, releases the brakes, carries the speed. And this is pretty tight between the two Red Bull teammates for the lead of the Grand Prix. Verstappen holds on. Perez is actually under control at the apex, but it does just mean he's a little bit slower out of the corner. And now with Leclerc just behind, Charles thinks that he fancies a bit of a look into turn 5. Not great overtaking place, but does this really tight line now towards the inside. Has a little think about trying to pass Perez. It looks even slightly desperate from Leclerc at this stage, but maybe he thinks the Red Bulls are going to be too strong, which was the general consensus in Abu Dhabi before Sunday. And Leclerc goes to the inside of Perez. Perez holds on, and Charles gets bulked on the apex, which then now, after Perez's failed attempt at turn 1, Leclerc's failed attempt at turn 5, he's now backed up into Hamilton and Sainz. And this is where we get our big moment on the first lap. So coming into the braking zone for turn 5, they're quite equidistant, really, the Ferraris with Hamilton in the middle of the sandwich. And as they hit the brakes, you can see Sainz is probably, this is 50 metres here, these gaps. So Sainz is probably about 20 metres back. He's a good chunk back on Hamilton, but he just sends it anyway. And I love the commitment here because it's so easy to just be safe, be conservative on the first lap into a big braking zone and think, oh, the race is long, 58 laps, I'll get him back on one of those other ones. But Sainz takes the opportunity. Hamilton brakes a little bit early and he's up the inside. Nice move. You've also got to be really careful here because if you miscalculate, if you go that little bit too deep, then you're going to just swipe into your teammate there who's turning in for his apex. So it's a really tricky balance to be late enough on the brakes to pass Hamilton, but if you go too late, you're causing a collision. There's going to be a pretty embarrassing one to explain. And Sainz absolutely nails this. So he comes in, he's under control, and as we play it through, he doesn't have a lock-up. He stops it on the apex as well. He gets himself ahead of Hamilton, and the move is pretty much done here. Now Lewis jumps straight across the curb, gets on the power, straight lines the second part of the chicane, and he gets back ahead of Carlos in that point. And that's a contentious point. At the time, it looked obvious that the move was done for Sainz, but Hamilton just held on off the track, and he shouldn't have done. We can see it again from this angle. So there's an argument that Hamilton was forced off the track, but this move was just done from Sainz. He's ahead coming into the apex. And actually, there is probably just about enough space for Lewis to not have to need to go over that orange sausage curb, which you can just see his right front on there. That raises the car, then he launches properly over it, risks a load of damage, and there might have even been space for him to stay on the track there, very, very pinched on the inside of the next corner. But he had that chance to stay on, just about a car's width there on the outside, and before the orange curb at least, but he didn't do it, and therefore it was absolutely inevitable that he'd have to give the place up. Took a few laps, but eventually he did, and Sainz was back through. So it was a really nice move. And of course, it was echoes of last season as well. And we're not going to bring too many comparisons back from last year to this year, but this was certainly one that was Hamilton on the receiving end of a lunge into this corner. And we could see, if we pause here coming into the corner, so Sainz was about 20 metres back. When Verstappen goes for his lunge here, it's a little bit further. It's probably more like 25 metres. The braking points were a fraction later as well with a bit more downforce. And he sends it. So he's coming from further back, dives in, still gets his car ahead at the apex. Lewis has moved in the braking zone to just try and cut him off at the last minute. Remember last year, it was a completely different race. Both of these drivers were on edge, tied on points for the championship. It was a different scenario inside the helmet for the two of them. And it was huge aggression from Verstappen. But fundamentally was kind of the similar outcome. Difference was here that Hamilton was technically pushed off the road because there is obviously not the space that Verstappen left before that same orange curb there that I think Sainz did. Now, for me, last year I said that this was a legit move from Verstappen because he kept himself on the track, and I thought that Hamilton had to give their place back. Hey, the race went on, and we know the outcome in the end, and this didn't end up being a hugely defining moment, but it could have been. And anyway, it just goes to show Carlos Sainz, lovely move at the start, and Hamilton cut the corner. Last year got away with it. This year, not the case.
I overtook him. He needs to give me a position. Super unfair. He did exactly the same last year with Verstappen.
Okay, Lewis, we've been asked to give the position back to Sainz.
So that was a look at the incident at the start between Carlos Sainz and Lewis Hamilton, but there was other battles throughout the Grand Prix and the crucial fight for second in the championship between Leclerc and Perez. We'll get into that, as well as looking at the leaving drivers, Vettel, Daniel Ricciardo, Mick Schumacher, Nicholas Latifi, all in the action. Check it out on F1 TV.